Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is George and I've had quite a few people message me on Instagram recently asking a couple of things about the tried and trusted Corsa VXR. Now I thought I'd just make a dedicated video to this so that I can point people in the right direction as someone who owns one, and I like to think at least I'm fairly knowledgeable in these cars and the platform. So starting off just with a few details about my car before we move on to things to look out for. It is a 2007 Corsa VXR. It's red. You can't see that. It's red. It's absolutely gorgeous. We've got these lovely 18-inch rims. It's got the 1.6. I believe this car has the Z16 LER in it. I could be wrong with that. It might be an A16. Please feel free to correct me in the comments. I'm not actually 100% sure. That's the one thing I don't know what engine code I have, which is probably really easy to see if I pop the bonnet. However, yeah, it's a 2007. It makes roughly 200 horsepower. I've done a couple of little bits to it. Deleted the rear wiper, some wind deflectors, Instagram sticker on the side, just little stuff like that, and yeah, and the boost gauge as well, which is always helpful to have. But now I want to just go over some key points of the Corsas, especially the VXR model, and things to watch out for, because every time someone hears Corsa VXR, they start screaming piston 4, and to be honest with you, they really aren't that bad if you get a good one and if you know the warning signs. But before we get to piston 4, just a few things exterior and general car wise, I suppose. Now on the Corsas here, this is actually the best place to see it, where I position the car. You can see the little rust spot that's forming here. Most of the Corsas have these, just a little bit of rust on the rear arch. There's not actually rust anywhere else, and the underside of the car, as you would have seen in previous videos. And if you haven't, feel free to check the Corsa VXR series playlist, and there are plenty of videos on there where you'll see the underside of the car. The underside of the car actually isn't too sad. There's a lot of surface rust, but that's pretty much it. The sills are okay. Just those rear arches, have a look out for those, yeah, it's nothing too drastic, just keep an eye out for it. It's one of those things that you just should keep an eye on. Second thing, if you decide to buy a red Corsa VXR like mine, be picky. Don't be afraid to be picky. If it takes you a while to decide on a car to get, that is absolutely no problem, because colour is the biggest thing with these cars. All red cars fade. It's just how red cars are, unfortunately. You can see, especially in this lighting here on the rear quarter, how faded the colour's got, especially on the rear spoiler lip here. The actual spoiler itself is very, very red, but the roof bit here is very pink. I don't know if you can see that on camera or not, but yeah, the difference between these two here, especially right in the middle, is yeah, you can see it on camera, it's pretty not great. It's just where the pigment in the colour fades over time and gives you that pink look, which unfortunately isn't ideal. Why is it that everywhere we go to film there's a fucking train? Moving on to the second thing, and before I get there actually, big thank you to my girlfriend for filming once again for me. It's Valentine's Day today, where it's right at the end. We went to Bella Italia for a meal. We've just been bowling. I won, but we've had a nice day. We made pancakes this morning. Obviously it was pancake day yesterday, but yeah, we've had quite a good day out, and now she's putting up with the cold and light spitty rain to film for me, so much appreciated, babe. Okay, moving on to the next thing. Boot struts on these, for whatever reason, like to go a lot. Again, not an expensive fix, but mine hasn't done it this time, but sometimes when I open the boot it'll get stuck about here. Yeah, there's just a little bit of resistance. If you give it a whack it'll open fully. Also, just to update you guys, you'll notice now strut bar's gone. I did show you in the last video, but I put these trims back in there's all my cleaning products for the car, and I have actually put in the tyre pump back in there, so if I get a flat I can pump it back up finally, which is going to be very nice to have back in your car. Okay, moving on to the next thing I actually wanted to say, the diffusers. Now oftentimes when people try and do exhaust on these, pulling off the stock exhaust, as you pop it out of the hangers, you have to cut, if they're really seized, there's a lot of twisting and turning that goes on, and as they come out, mine's actually got it, but that was my own doing. underneath, which I can't really show you, but on this underside here, you'll see a lot of scratching. Unfortunately, that's kind of just user error, changing exhaust, things like that. If it's seized, it can happen. I mistakenly did it, but I am looking at getting a new diffuser. I was looking at getting a black one, but I've seen a couple of red VXRs with black diffusers, and I don't like the way they look, so I think I'm going to stick with the tried and trusted grey. Moving around to the rest of the car, obviously you've got your standard like car checks that you do. Do all the brake lights work, indicators, reverse lights, is there any exposed wiring, like in the boot. Pull off those trims, feel free to have a little look, especially that left trim. When you go to buy a Corsa, pop the boot open, pull off that left trim, have a little look at all the wiring. If there's anything that looks out of place, ask your questions, because I've seen a couple of friends of mine have had looms that have been spliced into, and then the lights haven't worked correctly, and things like that. To be honest with you, exterior wise, there's not a lot on the Corsas that you need to be too aware of. Just the surface rust, the diffuser, and then obviously panel gaps. That's a standard thing for when you buy a car. You come to the front here, maybe. The panel gap here, it's pretty good. Can't get a finger in there. No complaints. Same here. Looks all good. But with mine, which this is one of those things that I missed, that I wish I didn't. But you make these mistakes, and the car still drives fine. If you look at the gap here, I can get a whole finger in there, and the like where it drops down to the bumper, there's like a little bit of a dip, whereas on this side can't get a finger in, lines up perfectly. Now that could just be where the bumper needs aligning. I severely doubt it. I reckon it had a minor shunt. There's no structural damage, there's no chassis damage, and it's not a cat car. But that's one of those things to look out for. Make sure the bonnet lines up with the front part of the with the top part of the bumper. Other things to look out for with a red car, obviously lack appeal. Mine's got a little bit of it, mostly on the bumper. There's a little bit of lack appeal here. We come down to the bumper here, there's another bit starting to peel there. There's quite a bit. That's just red cars for you. All red cars peel. Once again, it's just to do with that colour. Right, now so let's get on to the main bits of the VXRs that you need to be aware of. Piston 4. I know everyone's been waiting for this bit of the video. If you service and maintain your car correctly, you will not have an issue. That's a lie. You may still have a problem. The Corsa VXR engines are not the best, right? However, regular 6 monthly to a year servicing. Castrol Magnatech 5W30 oil, I personally recommend. You'll see a lot of the other VXR YouTubers out there definitely do as well. As you would have just heard, my missus also pointed out the difference in colour here. I mean, it's not helped by the fact the car's dirty, but there is definitely a difference. I can't take that away. Where was I? Yeah. 6 months to a year, Castrol 5W30, change your oil, change your filter, change the sun plug while you're out. You might as well bang a new one in there. Try and get one of the magnetic ones. That's what I'd recommend, because any of that old shit that comes off of anything, get stuck to that, give it a good clean off, bang a new one in with a new washer next time you service it. Servicing, it's really important that you buy a car that's had a good service history. Obviously the lower miles the better, but that's just most cars. I personally would not recommend going over 100k when you come to buy one of these cars. Obviously nowadays that's going to be a lot more difficult. For a good example, below 80,000 miles, you're looking at about £4 or so. I paid £4,900 for mine. That's when the market was slightly higher. Mine had 72,000 miles. Cam belt and water pump done was done at 60k. That's also something I forgot to mention that. A cam belt and water pump around 60,000 miles must be done. If it's at 60,000 miles, buy the car, do it immediately, or ask the garage to do it for you and pay them. And they might even give you a little bit of money off if you're going to buy the car at the same time. So that's really the main things. Piston 4, it's one of those things that the only way you can really avoid it is by fully forging your engine. If you fully forge it and then keep on servicing it, I doubt you're going to have a problem. My one isn't fully forged. I put decent miles on the car, and I haven't had a problem personally. Also, to prevent the piston 4 issue, there's a really, really big thing within the VXR community. If you do decide to buy one of these cars, or if you come to buy one, join an owners club on Facebook, or just go on. There's a VXR owners forum that I believe is deactivated now, but there's a lot of good stuff on there. Warm up and cool down periods on this car, very, very, very key. I've been slacking recently because I've been running late to work and I've just been driving, as by this clip here. But unfortunately, I need to get back into the habit of letting it warm up and letting it cool down properly. I always let it cool down, I never let it warm up. No, sorry, not never. Normally I do, but just recently I've been a bit lackluster with it. 50 degrees before you drive anywhere, keep it under 2k until you're at 80, and then you can start to push the car. Obviously, if it's stupid cold outside, and you hop on a motorway, even keeping it below 2k RPM, you're never really going to get to 80 degrees. Mine holds steady at 70 on the motorway, even keeping it under 2k. So there's not a lot you can do there, but once, I personally, I recommend about 5 minutes of warm up, 10 minutes of under 2k RPM driving, and then you can start to push her a little bit. Again, I've been lackluster with that recently. I need to get on it, but you know, daily driver, I should take a bit better care of that, especially knowing the piston 4 issue is such a big thing. But unfortunately I don't, but it's something I need to do. So for piston 4, we're going to say fully forging completely cures it, hopefully, but obviously there's risks associated with that, and also the price is unreal. Warm up and cool down periods, approximately 50 degrees before you drive, 10 minutes of normal under 2.5 to 2,000 RPM driving, and then you can start to push the car a little bit. And that regular servicing that I was talking about, Castrol 5W30, keep your engine happy, keep some good oil in it, and just make sure the car's good. Exterior wise, not a lot. Rust, diffuser, body lines, but that's standard cars. Also listen out for the turbo, and obviously this goes to say with any normal car, but if the car's been warmed up prior to you getting there to view the car, let it cool down. If you go to start the car and it doesn't cold start, or the idle immediately drops, they've had it on before to hide a problem. So I would recommend, with the Corsa temp gauges, you can see another video here that I would have put, the hidden features video, that'll be, where you can activate the temperature gauge. It shows just below the lighting one, so it will say 0 if your lights are on 100, and then underneath that it says your cooling temperature. Before you go to start the car, flick the ignition on, get into that menu, and if it's not where you'd expect it to be, if it's any higher than, I'd say 40, they've had it warmed up, and let it drop before you start that car, because they're definitely trying to hide a problem. Okay, so there's a couple of things I've had a little think about and I forgot to mention. I would like to preface this with the fact that I have had no issues with mine. I don't really know what people are talking about, but I know people who have had issues, so I'm going to say it anyway. The M32 gearbox that came in the Corsa VXR, I believe the Astra VXR as well, correct me if I'm wrong. You know when you go to the toilet after Taco Bell, and you turn around and you look back in the toilet and you see the product that you've created? That's what these gearboxes are made out of. Nothing good. These gearboxes are absolutely awful, made out of glass. Again, I haven't had any issues with mine, but when you're driving the car, have your test drive, obviously check the brakes and everything else, but make sure you go through all gears, make sure it has good engagement in every single gears, check for crunches in gears, give it a little 2, 3, 4 like flat foot, not flat foot shift, but like keep your foot pinned, give it a shift into third, give it a shift into fourth, make sure there's no grinding or clunking noises, so everything's happy. Another common problem on the Corsa VXR, wheel bearings. That side wheel bearing was gone for absolutely ages, and it took me so long to fix it. I don't know if I actually showed in the video how bad it was, but literally I took the bolt off, and it, like, with this side, because it was on its way out but it was still good, I had to use a it's like a gripping tool, so it grips back at the wheel bearing, and as you tighten the nut on the front, it pushed a little spindle in onto the main axle and then pulled the wheel bearing off. That one came off fairly difficult. I had to get a 1/2-inch ratchet and actually give it a good old turn before it came off. The other side, undid the nut, slid off 2 fingers. It was in pieces. The balls were everywhere. I was very surprised it didn't just go bang. But I've now done those and I haven't had a problem. But like I said, the front and rear wheel bearings on these cars are made out of chocolate. They're definitely something to look out for. As you're giving the car a drive, if it's got an exhaust, you definitely need to do this. If it hasn't, then don't worry too much, you should be able to hear it. Get her up to a good 50 to 60 miles per hour, 6th gear, clutch in and just let it roll for a little while, and listen for any weird humming noises that aren't normal road noise. These suffer from quite bad road noise anyway, at least in my experience. So you'll know the hum is definitely a different noise. Another way to have a good check is if they do like a used car prep on it and they have to get it up on a ramp, ask to be shown the up and down play on a wheel, because that's where you'll feel the play in a wheel bearing. If there's play there, you can ask them to replace it, or that's something you need to look at soon. Another thing, the coolant return hose on these perish very easily apparently. Again, these are all problems that I've heard of and have seen, but I've never experienced myself. I've been quite lucky with this car. So far I've only needed to do a gearbox mount, lower arms and drop legs, which are all simple suspension issues, or like an engine mount issue. So I've not really had much ag, but the coolant return hose, apparently it's very, very brittle and can break quite easily. So just have a little look at that when you go to look at the car as well. Definitely something to keep in mind. For all of these, by the way, I keep forgetting to mention, but for all of these I'm going to find a little picture and put them up on screen, so you would have seen that so far through the video, just so you know roughly what you're looking for. One last thing to look out for on these cars, and then I'm going to give you a quick summary. Heater matrix. Common Corsa problem. Corsa C, Corsa D. Don't think the E's have it, I think they sorted it out there. So the heater matrix is located as you sit in your seat, passenger or driver, it'll either be on your right or left hand side. If you pull off that little side panel, which I believe is pulled off just with a T20, you'll see basically just a box with pipe going into. There's a heater matrix. They block up very, very easily, and even once the car's warm, sometimes you won't get fully hot air through. You can clean them, but your best option is just to replace it at that point. Once the car's warmed up, it's good practice to whack the heaters on, even in summer. I know, but whack the heaters on. Have it so it's not recirculating from in the car, and see how much see how hot it pumps out, and then check the AC, of course, but the main one's the heaters, as the heater matrices in these cars like to go a lot. Okay, so finally, to summarise, we've got quite a list here of what to look out for, but these cars are fucking awesome and I love this thing and I wouldn't change it at all, honestly. So first thing, rust in the rear arches and just general cosmetic things. Body lines, rust, any nicks and scratches, paint fade, especially on the red ones. All things to look out for while you're visually inspecting the car. You see anything you're not happy with, the person you're speaking to, you notify them, you say, would you get it fixed before I buy it? Or would you be able to knock a little bit off the price? These are all things that you can use to say, right, I'm not quite happy with that. For that reason, I'm going to offer you this much money. So realistically, when I bought this car, I should have probably only paid 4.5, but they'd given it a really good polish that's just kind of faded very quickly actually, and it was very, very red when I bought it, but I'm going to get it polished soon, so can't wait. General body things, just keep an eye out, rust, and these are all little things you can use in your pursuit of buying a Corsa VXR. Moving on to the engine side of things, piston 4 obviously. Make sure the car hasn't been warmed up prior, start the car, listen for any clunking or ticking. There's a normal tick anyway, that's the injectors, as I've been told by this comment. He explained that it was just the injectors, you can hear them just on tick over. So nothing to worry about there, but if you hear an aggressive clunking or if the car is very lumpy, I would recommend shying away from it. Keep the car serviced. Make sure you check the service history for the cam belt and water pump being done at around 60,000 miles, or if the car's approaching or has just passed that mileage but hasn't had it done yet, look at knocking some money off of the price for the payment you'd have to use to do the cam belt and the water pump. Gearboxes, clunking noises, any grinding between gears, just keep an eye out for that sort of thing. The coolant return hose, make sure there's no snaps or leaks in there, make sure it's not too brittle and doesn't just fall apart like the first time you're going to drive it. Heater matrix, heaters, make sure the heat fully pumps out of the car once it's fully warmed up, and you shouldn't have any issues. And finally, the wheel bearings, make sure there's no humming noise when you're driving between 50 and 60 miles per hour, and whack that clutch in and just let her roll for a little while, and listen out for any humming noise from the front or rear of the vehicle. That's all I've got to say to you boys today. I would love for you lot to experience this car. I've loved every minute of it so far. This is genuinely one of the first cars I've owned that I don't plan on getting rid of anytime soon. It's starting to really rain, so we're going to hop back in the car. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to smash a like and subscribe down below. Give me some comments down below on what you would like to see with the Corsa. Hopefully got a few more things coming up soon, but nothing too drastic just yet. And let me know if you want to see a holiday video in May, because I'm going on holiday in May. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video next week. Goodbye!